This is another day, ladies and gentlemen, that God has given us. We praise and rejoice in it. Welcome, TJKShares, TJK Foundation, one-on-one with TJK. I am so excited today to be speaking to my brother, young brother, co-worker, co-traveler, co-creator of this TJK channel, and the man who jumped on it and started it more than a year ago. It has grown because of your efforts, Matt. I am so excited to be having this conversation. There's no host here. We are going to have a conversation that's going to be inspirational to all of you, our listeners, motivational, but also part of a historical record of two people creating something and making it a success out of our love for the youth and our love for the world and the work we do in the world. Welcome, Matt Stauble. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing really well. Busy with a lot of NYACA projects, and it's exciting to be a part-time team member of NYACA after having traveled to Uganda and been able to volunteer and almost known you now for 10 years. So it's just a privilege to be able to kind of have the behind the scenes look and be able to help out on the inside of NYACA operations, especially on the media side, photo and video side.
Wonderful. I am so glad you are here. I'm so glad we met. I can't believe it's only been 10 years. It seems like forever. It's like yesterday when we were on a first trip to Uganda with a whole group of a bunch of people. And when Jenna stand around and said, you know, I have Matt a son and I have Matt an adopted son, meaning Matt the biological son and you, Matt the other son. So for the purposes of those who don't know you and haven't seen you, many have seen you. And if you haven't seen Matt, at least you've seen his work, period. You know NYACA, you've seen Matt. Every picture you've seen on our website, NYACA website, all the media, you see pictures, videos. Matt is such an humble guy that he does not even allow us to put his name under the pictures he's taken. Otherwise, every picture is the one who has taken it. So we can just go around and say all pictures and videos done by Matt Stauble, Stauble Media. We'll put links on his amazing work and we'll see it. Please do tell our listeners on this channel a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So you mentioned Janice. It's Janice Simon. She's been our chairperson of the board up until last year for NYACA, and she's been involved for many years. And she introduced me to NYACA through, I'm best friends with her son, Matt Simon. So another Matt, and we have been friends since we were very young, grew up playing sports and traveling and skiing together and soccer. And in high school, my mother was involved with a foundation called Cherish the Children Foundation. It was a local in Connecticut here in the US. It was local serving children that needed help right away, a full volunteer board. And we'd do fundraising, help with events, and even back then I was already doing photography. So Matt Simon and I already had a relationship even with philanthropy, and our mothers were involved and helped out. And then years later, Janice introduced me to Jackson, asked me to photograph an event in New York City. So I met you. And then the following year, I was flying to Uganda on a trip with Janice and Ronnie in a group, and got to experience NYACA for the first time, fell in love, continued to travel there and take photographs each year after that. So really appreciative to Janice and Ronnie and the Simon family, which is, Janice is the daughter of Barry Siegel, which is Siegel Family Foundation. So I've known Barry since I was a young child. He's a mentor of mine, and then is also a mentor of yours. And so it's just been a privilege to be involved.
Wow. You've been to Uganda so many times. You even got to acquire a name, a Ugandan name, Nahavasa, given to you by the grandmothers. You and I have gone camping. We played soccer in Yaka village at Kombon Field. We have hiked. We have cried. We have laughed. We've had our hearts broken together. We've experienced sorrows and amazing things. Share a little bit about arrived in Uganda the first time. What really shocked you? Everyone always has a story about something happening on the continent of Africa. Many people refer to it as Africa as if it is one country. But when you arrived in Uganda, even where you grew up, what stood out as something like, oh, I didn't expect this? And what stood out as, oh my God, I am impressed this is here as I always expected?
So two things pop up: the terrain and the people. The terrain and the environment, much more lush, green, hilly, plants and fruits and animals everywhere, incredibly lush. But I'm kind of skipping by that, even though that's a super highlight, because the people in general, the people second you land, who you travel with and who you meet, you make these friends and family members for life through these connections. And one of the biggest highlights on the first trip, and has continued to be a major highlight, is been fortunate enough to be able to stay right next to the primary school at your home, and in the mornings wake up to as the sun is rising, the students are coming in, walking, sometimes a few minutes, sometimes an hour. They started in the dark, and they're laughing and talking, and you can hear them walking into the gates of school in the morning. So I get myself up and brush my teeth and wander over, and that school assembly, is at 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m., and when the sun starts peaking before classes start every morning, is the school assembly with teacher announcements, or if guests are visiting, singing, dancing, raising the flag, the Uganda anthem. And that, to me, the first time struck me, but I still tear up every time. And that's just how these students and kids are starting their day. But that's kind of like what all the little work and emails and everything we do, it all kind of funnels down to that. Those kids, we wake up in the morning, and a lot of them still are getting water, doing chores before and after school, but they'd be waking up and not having that opportunity to learn and have that community. So that sticks out as a highlight.
Wonderful. One of the things that really impressed me earlier on, your amazing eye for a photograph. But a photograph that doesn't only depict these touristic photographs that people take when they go to see children, but that captures an entire story within just a picture. I vividly remember when we went to build a grandmother house, which you had fundraised, did a GoFundMe to raise money to build a house for the grandmother. And that also, I must mention that because you really wanted to go, the passion you have, many of the trips you raised money to do it. So you get volunteers and interns who go, hey, as long as you fund my trip, I will go. Matt never asked us to do that. He said, I'm running a campaign. I'm going to use some of the pictures and publicize. Your mom has been a support of every trip you took. Your brother has been a support of every trip you took. Your sister has been a supporter, and many of your friends, we can't mention all of them. But your eye for a picture. There we are building a house. I am on top. We've just, each of us nailed in iron sheets, and I say, I'm going to jump. I'm just jumping for fun. I grew up jumping. I always jump. And I jumped from that roof, right in the middle, halfway between the roof and halfway before I hit the ground. You took that iconic picture that we have all laughed and tried to redo and never done. How did you learn photography, Matt? And this also ties into encouraging young people to follow their passion rather than just learn to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, and engineer. Where did you get that skill? Take the right picture at the right time, and why did you choose photography?
Well, thank you. So I'm going to take it back. I'm 34 now. I'm going to take it back to when I was 14. So I'm 20 years in. But before I do that, I'm just going to mention when I am in Uganda and photographing children and grandmothers, I just love that connection. I usually try to take photos that are more candid. And then also when I'm making a connection with someone, I like to make a connection first. And I got some of my best photos in 2017 because it was the longest trip. I spent 60 days and I was really able to take time with people one-on-one and get beautiful connections and photos. And one thing about the kids, when I do the student portraits where I'm photographing every single NIACA student for the Sponsor All Students program, some people do ask, how do you get them all to smile? And most of them are happy, willing to smile. But I do want to add that they are mostly laughing at me. I'll say they'll hear me in my English accent speaking in the local Ruchiga, Sheka Munungo, smile, big smile. And so that smile is laughing with and at me, and I love that. So part of it's a fun connection of having, a visitor and then seeing now the same face come 7 times I've photographed these students. So that's been really fun, taking the time and that documentarian approach of I feel like I'm scanning your work. I'm scanning the community. I'm just photographing what's there, the projects that are being done. It's almost like part of the meal program, the monitoring and evaluations, and in a beautiful way. And of course, we feature our success and pride of the program and happy, smiling faces. And that's part of our brand approach. But really, when photographing these things, you're documenting projects and certain things for the face of the brand, like the website and the annual report. And sometimes it's for back end, more reports or someone donated toward a certain project. So I really love that aspect, and working with Paul and the team for the monitoring evaluations team. But just to jump back to your original question of where it all started, I was 14 years old, and I'd already started messing around with my mother had a camera, and I mentioned her earlier. My dad really inspired me toward adventure and health and sports and hiking and travel and these things. And so I started carrying a camera with me on different trips, and I'd often travel with friends. I always loved to travel and was kind of an easy person to travel with, even at a young age. So I had multiple friends with their parents kind of told them, oh, we're going on this fun weekend trip. You can invite a friend as long as it's Matt, so it's like, it's like you can invite a friend with you, but we'd prefer if Matt, he is polite and easy to travel with. So I've always loved traveling, doing new experiences. And then I started at a young age documenting them and always having a camera on me. And at 14 was significant, where I started, photographing high school sports and doing that and selling pictures to parents and doing that as a profession, and then photographing for the Cherish the Children Foundation, an annual event golf tournament. And we'd have a fundraising competition in high school to see who could raise the most for that, which is really cool right now. One of the projects we're working on is a partner organization in the US that's called TEAM, TEEEM. It's the Empathy, Equality, Entrepreneurship Mission. So it's all about engaging high schools that donate to causes all over the world, including NIACA, and teaching the students skills and for the future, and to be more empathetic and compassionate citizens of the world. So it's pretty cool. Working on the media side of that, just created a recruitment video for the high schools, and if anyone has any relationships with high schools they went to, high schools they work at. Little shout out for that. Just reach out to myself or Jackson or any NYACA team member, employee, and we'll connect you with the team program and get your high school involved. So
very, very good. What you covered a lot of that question, but the important aspect that I want young people to get out, especially our Uganda listeners who are coming from families where mom and dad or the guardian or uncle are going, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer. You didn't become any of those. Your parents gave you liberty to follow your dream, and you followed photography. So I want you to encourage my younger photographers in Nyaka village, in northern Uganda, in Bangladesh, how to follow. I want them to hear it from you. Follow your dream. Don't worry about what your next classmate is doing. Following your passion. Your best friend is a human rights lawyer.
Yeah.
You chose to be a photographer.
True. I guess I did choose to really study in the areas I was passionate about, and I was fortunate enough to go to a high school that had a photography program. When I started high school, it was a dark room with film, learned how to do that, and then it transitioned. While I was in high school, they ripped the dark rooms out, put computers, Adobe Photoshop, digital cameras. So I was really passionate about that. So even by my senior year of high school, I had relationships with the video and photo teachers, and I did independent studies. So instead of taking some of the other classes, I knew I wasn't going to go to a 4-year college. I was going to go to a 1-year digital certification program at Boston University, and they get you right out into the industry. You're trained by industry professionals. My mom was dropping me off at hotels with adults in conference rooms, learning Adobe Photoshop on a projector. I wanted to make money for my first camera, so my aunt and uncle were my godparents. They had saved up since I was a child some money for me, but I matched it by doing landscaping for a whole summer. I just printed out flyers and did $10 an hour landscaping, and I know that's not a lot for some. That's a ton for some, but I was able to just go door to door in my neighborhood with a cart, before I got my driver's license or anything like that, just walking around doing yard work for people for a whole, summer, and was able to get that first digital camera and switch from film. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. My dad started a business when he was in his 20s, and that's where his healthcare company doing wellness centers and fitness centers and all kinds of stuff in that healthcare world, but very entrepreneurial spirit. He'd always teach me about that. So I really always felt like I had the opportunity to live the freelance lifestyle. I didn't have any pressure to take the traditional track. So I guess I thank my parents for that, for sure. So that the world was open to me in that sense, where I could become a freelancer. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's kind of hills and valleys. So what you lose in that consistent, 2-week paycheck, you lose a little bit of freedom and flexibility in your life. But that consistency is nice. So as a freelancer now, I've tried to develop relationships with clients where I'm on more of a retainer monthly or quarterly schedule, where they need photos and videos. I work with a lot of healthcare companies now that used to do a lot of sports, and that's still a passion, and adventure things. But a lot of clients. So one recommendation for freelance is, when I started out, I was just hungry to learn. I knew it was my passion. So that's why people, I think, say follow your passion, because it won't feel like work. You're on these shoots, and I'm on a flight, and I'm out to dinner with people I never thought I might be out to dinner with, and all the things you talk about in many of these episodes. But over time, you also learn to maybe make it more of a consistent business, where you're on retainer, you have some type of subscription service, or you make a monthly or quarterly type income. So you have some of those clients, some of the random ones that just come up out of nowhere. So I do recommend freelance to everyone, but I never try to make it seem like it's easy, because yeah, some months you're low and some months you're high. And I do think as you build a business, you climb out of that hills and valleys, and that's the goal. But yeah, I'm just super lucky, really, also to be able to pursue what I was passionate about, and just even in school, outside of media things, and the subjects I was passionate about, I would get A's, and the subjects I didn't care about, I would get B's and C's. And I always knew that since a young age, that it's really important to engage what sparks that in you.
Whoa, Matt, man, Matt. You have volunteered. You volunteered for so many years. Then eventually the organization in Yaka decided we are going to hire you on a part-time to be part of our communication and marketing and media team. As soon as that happened, we realized we had a huge gap with our New York Marathon coordination. We added on the New York Marathon. I was talking to one of our staff members yesterday. They said Matt is the right person to reach all our alumni runners because he's been there. Matt and myself are people who have been there from the beginning. 2018, when we had the first runners on the streets of New York, you were there snapping pictures. We watched it together. At that time, I was not even running as much. And I remember you telling me, Jackson, you can do this. You just have to be consistent and log it on an app. You introduced me to the app to use. I started going. Now I'm a person who wakes up every single day and puts in 3 miles every single day because of you, my man.
No.
Train 3 marathons, you work out, you eat good, you take care of yourself, you take care of your body. I know you're going to cover so many different aspects. Please talk about the importance of taking care of yourself and eating right and exercising consistently, and also how the shift from a volunteer to a worker now, encouraging so many runners to run for a cause, how that is going, and how other organizations can even learn from what Nyaka is doing to adopting their own fundraising aspects.
Well, thank you for that. And no, you inspire me with your 3 miles a day. And anyone with the Strava app who's running can follow along, follow Jackson to see his daily runs. It's very cool to see him running all over the world. Just got back from Uganda, kept it up there, comparing the sidewalks in Uganda to the sidewalks here. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see. First I'll mention going from a volunteer to now part-time. And as a volunteer, I was so enthusiastic when I could carve out the time, and I'd go on a trip and edit and send photos and hope they get used, and sometimes they did. You see on the cover of the annual report, and sometimes that link would never have gotten downloaded, and hours might not. So now that I'm the media content strategist, whenever something goes out for NIACA, like a annual report or a major change on a website or a newsletter, to be able to on a weekly basis be in on meetings and be talking and seeing in the WhatsApp groups what's going on with staff and stay up on the stories, and then also be connected here in the US with like unlimited internet and hard drives and computing power to just be a support system for transferring photos and videos, editing, and in the future building up even a bigger team in Uganda doing all this media things. And so much respect. In the beginning, you mentioned how I helped guide some of the start of even this channel, but
yes,
what we've seen over the past year of the Ugandan team and editors take over and that continue to build and get more organized is incredibly inspiring. And like in the goal, just like with NIACA, we've seen Agneta, our communications person in Kampala, she has really taken over the photos, has a whole new camera kit, and I've helped guide a little bit, but just with little guides. There's just so much talent in Uganda, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about with Nyaka is it's always been Ugandan run, led, and founded, and the future Nyaka students that come back and work for Nyaka is one of the most beautiful things about the cycle, but just the generation of young adults in Uganda that just have such incredible talent, especially in the field I'm in. The ones I communicate with, they get it and they know that, but I hope the whole generation Uganda, this young generation, realizes that even if the numbers say the certain job pool market of certain jobs are decreasing, or there's not enough jobs for the generation population of the young adults that are coming out of university, there's just such an incredible opportunity on the internet and through digital platforms and digital skills, especially in the creative realm, and that I'm involved with creative production, content production. Obviously, we're all on our phones. We make a lot of our purchasing decisions and deciding what we're going to do and researching things all through media content on our phones and computers on the internet. And there's just an unlimited opportunity for creating that. And there's massive talent and skill in Uganda. So I just want to see, just like Reach Ahead Uganda, partner organization that many of your followers know about and have heard about, and Humphrey was on. And they just helped out huge in our SGBV walk against gender and sexual and gender-based violence. But just have a whole team, media focused, graphics, text, photo, video, animations, communications. You have to capture the stuff, and sometimes it ends up on memory cards and hard drives and never gets used. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and you have people that can edit and distribute, but to have the full team to be able to create and distribute. There's so many roles. Everyone's their own media content studio, TV station now. So it's so cool to see, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about with Uganda. So I'm happy to share that, especially with your audience of a lot of young professionals that are just getting into it.
Very good. Importance of working out and exercise.
Yes, that one.
For you personally, and encourage our people.
Yes.
People. We want them to get on their feet, to live longer. When I spoke to a doctor, Dr. Kasenene, on this same channel, he said two things: you are what you eat, and if you don't eat right, you will pay it in medication.
Yes.
And I'm like, whoo! Now let's hear the wisdom from Matt.
I'm glad you shared his. So I'll speak on his two first. The first one, you are what you eat. I love that. That's genius. But a friend also told me, you are what your food eats. So there's quality of the food. So sometimes you're eating, broccoli, but it might have been grown in bad soils with pesticides or something like that. And then the broccoli in Uganda is mostly organic, rich soils, pesticide free. So that's the food ate what was in the soil. The food can consume what's in the environment, the water that's coming down, the air, and then what's in the soil. And then obviously even more with animals, what that animal ate. So if you're eating a factory farmed animal that ate genetically modified, soy or corn, and it was antibiotics and unclean water and unsanitary conditions, unhappy lifestyle, that's what that food ate. So you are what your food ate. And then to his other point, one of my favorite things about working out and health is the things you eat and the exercises and routine you have. It not only adds to the days of your life, but the life in your days. So when I work out, I used to just do it for sports performance or sometimes to feel good, but now I work out mostly in the mornings, especially to feel good that day. but also to feel good and extend the days of my life. So the same workout, the same healthy meal is adding life to that one day, and it's adding also days to your life. So definitely started with like sports for me. My dad, again, was in the health industry, health genius, really. He actually went to school for zoology. He double majored in zoology and biology, and he was a science teacher for a year, 8th grade science, and was also managing gyms and really into sports, and was like a Eagle Scout and captain of the sports teams in high school, and did soccer, swimming, wrestling, and grew up very active and hiking and camping. So he introduced me to a lot of health stuff, and also with diet. But through my sports, I learned so much that's helped me to this day. But I also got about 8 major concussions. So I got some minor concussions, some major, but I got a bunch of major head injuries before I was 18 through soccer, skiing, mountain biking, and some just random ones. You get more susceptible the more you get. And that really, in my early 20s, led me on a even deeper health journey, going into my adulthood of trying to figure out the best herbs and foods and practices and meditation and breath work and connection with nature and things that would help just brain health and productivity and all that. So running has definitely been a big one for me, and I think everyone's body is different when it comes to food or exercise. You find out what works for you. And one of the interesting, funny things now is because I was into sports and always trying to avoid brain injury, I wasn't allowed to play football, really. My parents didn't restrict me from anything. They wanted me to try everything, but they kind of guided me towards soccer instead of American football because of head injuries. I ended up getting probably more head injuries in soccer, but I love soccer to this day, and that's another subject we might not touch today. But all the work we're doing with getting this Nyaka FC and soccer going on in Nyaka, but studying, food and health for head injuries. I never was into martial arts or fighting. I did wrestling when I was very young for a couple of years, when I was like 8 and 9 years old in 3rd and 4th grade, and that was fun. But I never thought I would get into boxing, is what I'm getting at. And I don't do the sparring or boxing. I don't have any interest in hitting anyone in the head or getting hit in the head still. But at my local gym, where I was just on the treadmill running, and I met a coach there, and now I have another coach that teaches classes at the gym. So I'm just hitting the bag, but he's a world-class boxing coach, incredible. So once or twice a week, it's been really fun to have a workout go with a friend and meet up with a couple other people and have this class. So I never really had that before, where I always had sports, and then it was all working out on my own, self-discipline, just running or going for workouts. And then this class brought back those memories of when I did have a coach growing up forever. And I realized how much of a privilege that is. I just thought like, oh, I can join whatever sports team I want, and then I have to do what the coach says. But I'm like very coachable, and I love sports. So it's always like, coaches love me. I'll be the first one to run up, eye contact, paying attention, do the drills. So I was always coachable, but I always just thought the coach, was just like that's just someone that's at the school or at the field and just does that. I didn't realize these are like passionate people dedicating their time and getting paid through either the private sports teams, our leagues, or through our tax dollars to the town. So I look back, really value coaches, and then my current coach to this day, it's been 2 years now of keeping up with these boxing classes, but it's an absolutely incredible workout and good like community and structure for, I kind of well, if I have to miss it, I'll miss it. But when you have something that's every Friday or it also adds structure to the life. So yeah.
Very good. I'm going to take you back to Uganda, which is Uganda is our love, both of us. you have gone so many times to Uganda and you interact with so many people where you live, where you work. Explain to our audience any Ugandan tradition or experience you've had there in Uganda and how you explain it to your fellow American suburban young man or young woman you grew up with. People have so many misconceptions about the country, about the culture, about food. Has there been a time when you were with your buddies you grew up with, went out to high school with, and you had to explain to them something about Uganda?
There's so many things. It's hard to always pick the best thing with being put on the spot a little bit, but one interesting thing is just overall safety. So it's kind of a good thing to share with people that are thinking about this or have never been. But without having gone there, I've had a lot of friends that are just like, oh my God, sign me up, I'll fly there tomorrow, you know? And then some friends are like, I could never imagine going there. So even at my age, sometimes you hear about older people like, oh, I'm too old to go, or I don't know about traveling, or, you know, but I'm saying people that in their 30s that even if they love to travel, they're just like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily feel safe. So sometimes, yeah, it might not be a funny or interesting story, but it's more about the general kind of educating them on even just when talking about bugs or, you know, mosquitoes or viruses or sickness, or, you know, and then also just when you're traveling, safety, like getting attacked or mugged or something like that. So not only do you find like Ugandan people you make friends with, it's fun and everything, and not that there aren't dangers. You have to be a safe traveler anywhere you go in the whole world. You can't just have like a wad of cash coming out of your pocket when you're walking through a certain part of the city. You know, just you have to be safe, and you have these plans, but yeah, no, you're not going to go and immediately get off the airplane, be stung by a mosquito and get malaria, you know, and be chloroformed or that. You know, I've always felt so safe, and I am, again, another piece of privilege for me. I'm like you know, I'm a man and I'm a larger guy and I'm athletic, and so I feel everywhere I go, I have the privilege of feeling less threatened than some other people just biologically. But Uganda really is just such a safe place. You're cared for by the people. It's not threatening, and you know, you're not gonna, yeah, there's not just malaria, mosquitoes flying around biting. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Is some people are like concerned about traveling to a place, you know, a continent that they've never been to, a country they've never been to. So, but
yeah, that's very interesting. That's a good one, Matt, because earlier a common friend of ours was talking with me, and I said, the board of directors of Nyaka requires me to have travel insurance when I'm going to Uganda. And we are talking about border, because recently I was running late. I had to jump on a border to catch the meeting. And this friend said to me, Jackson, you know, these are so risky. So today we are talking about that today. And I said, if I got an accident on that border, the travel insurance will actually not cover because it's a risk I take. Wow. And then this friend said to me, so do you have insurance on going in the USA? Because there are more deaths, you are most likely to be shot in the United States as a black man than you will be even shot in Uganda. So you need insurance also for your safety, for the safety of Nyaka. Wow. So I'm putting that in perspective because people who don't really travel always think it's more risky to be there. When the risk is even here, you are in downtown Western Chicago, you're most likely to be shot dead than you are most likely to die in Uganda. I just had to share that right there.
Yeah.
Go back to Uganda, Matt. You've listened to the music, you've eaten the food, we've had drinks in Kampala. Share your favorite music artist if you have any, and if you become a fan of one, and one meal that you enjoy when you are in Uganda? When you are arriving, the plane is there on top of Kenya, about to land at Entebbe Airport. What meal are you thinking? I must eat this when I land. And what artist in Uganda do you like, if any?
Okay. I'll start with food. It's kind of interesting, and you know, I might get judged from both sides because it's kind of a mix of what Ugandans might like and a mix of what I might eat at home. But my favorite meal in Uganda is, so a lot of times the meat is served, in broth. So it's like a soup. So you order like a beet or goat soup, but it's like a chunk of meat on the bone, the broth. So you have to chew on the meat, and you have like one bone in the broth. And then many Ugandans will have more matoke on their plate than I do. I'm mostly rice. But I like to, and then traditionally what I've seen more Ugandans do is you take the rice with a fork, you dip it into the broth and this soup while you're eating. But I like to pour basically the bone broth, meat broth onto the rice and get like this ricey, and then like a whole avocado smashed in. So I love rice avocado with the bone broth, stew, soup, and other things like the pumpkin, and then G-nut sauce. So ground nut sauce. Those are my favorite foods. And I'm not sure about a musician in particular. I do love the music. I love hearing the kids sing and recording sometimes and using that in videos. On our first SGBV walk, we had Maurice Hassa, and he comes to mind. I was just thinking about the other day and listening to his music. And so I think he's even more activist than maybe even making new music right now, but he's just beautiful voice, genius musician, and doing awesome advocacy work as well. So Maurice Hassa definitely comes to mind.
Wonderful. Yes, the first SGBV, Maurice Hassa, and he has a story because he talked about SGBV in one of his songs way back. The song called Kalekeka Some.
Yes.
And I've had Maurice here, so to our listeners, go back and listen to an episode with Maurice Hassa. Kalekeka Some is a song where a child was defiled, and now he runs a whole organization called Kalekeka Some. The first one was Maurice Hassa, second one was Eddie Kenzo, third we had Ray G and Sister Charity, and now we just had Ike Bender as the lead man, and Zambani from Kabale singing in Rukunjiri. So we've had partnerships. Nyaka has had partnerships. We personally have met these amazing people with stories. We don't just choose a musician, we choose people who also have a story. You have also traveled many times and you've met many young people, youth in Uganda, some within the organization, others outside the organization. What's the most heartwarming success story you've witnessed among the youth you've worked with on your trips to Uganda? There are many. Choose one.
Yeah, it's hard to choose, and I would like to bring one up that we've never discussed, but I'm gonna choose Dennis, because even though this morning I had Hillary and Chris Lowe, our Chief Operations Officer here in the US, and Hillary in Uganda, do a Nyaka News that's going to come out soon. But so I don't want to pick anyone in particular, but Dennis, there's already a Nyaka News that people can go out and watch with an interview with his story. And it's just incredible. And it is my favorite to share, especially if people haven't heard it, because he's come full circle and working for Nyaka. So there's some other Nyaka graduates that are now working for Nyaka as well. But for him to be a pioneer student, he's such a positive attitude, go to business school, come back, and now be the Sponsor All Students coordinator, the bridge between the students and their sponsors all around the world, is just so cool. So to get his full story, check out Nyaka News on Nyaka Global's YouTube page if people want to learn more. But it's so cool to have a personal relationship with him where we talk at least once a week, just checking in, how you doing, checking in with his family and how he's doing. So that's been special. But there's a lot of those in my WhatsApp that check in, and it's always heartwarming and fun to build those relationships. So
very good. And you played soccer. If I ask the same question, people who have interacted with you, I can see a guy who scored the goal on you the first time you were in goal at Combone League, going, I got a goal on Mzungu. We've had there have been a lot of success. You've seen the children go from young to professionals. Yes, Dennis stands out, and his story, I mean, the girls here at TJK, one of our brains behind the scenes is Rita Chanda, who still will be working on getting this on YouTube. You are the one who taught her how to get these videos loaded. So I asked you the question saying pick one, knowing it is also a tough one to pick, but we always want at least to highlight some. If you could sum up your journey from the US to Uganda and your work with Nyaka in one single sentence, for those who have never been, the ones who have never been to USA, and those who have in the USA have never been to Uganda, how would you sum it up and encourage others to make that journey?
I'd say it's been a massive privilege and fortune to be involved at all. The more I give, the more I receive, and it's expanded my heart and skills. Now I'm getting beyond a line, but not even just with philanthropy, but also business and interacting with people and media. So it's just been incredible to work with you and work with Nyaka, and I always just am grateful, look at it as just a fortunate experience, and that I'm growing with. And so it's kind of cool that it's not temporary, but it's something I'm committed to forever. So
all right, we're going to be winding down here. You have traveled not only to Nyaka, you've traveled to Bali, you've traveled to other countries in South America, you've traveled to ski, you've traveled to for vacations. What personal growth have you experienced through your involvement with international organizations, and how has it shaped your long-term goals?
So first, on the travel part, just being able to see and experience new things. Like, I'm not even going to start listing things. It expands your mind and your heart, like I said, so much. So that when you're back at home, you gathered new resources within yourself. So I've always invested in myself, and that's, I guess, a good advice for the young freelancers and entrepreneurs as well. Like, if you're investing in yourself, it's going into your mind, body, and spirit. It might not look material, you might be able to show for it, you might not post it, but it's within yourself forever after that point, just like education. And learn that other people's skills will, kind of fill in as a team. So especially when it comes to learning about Nyaka and my experiences in Uganda, I've learned to just more be the documentarian and observer, and try to use my skills and just share what the other people are doing with their skills, the teachers and the administration and what you do. I always just consider myself like a servant and a part of that. So I definitely learned that, the first trip you do go in, you're going to volunteer and teach a class on this or do this or help consult on this project or something, as a volunteer. That's really fun to get engaged. And then you realize over the years and with my involvement, you realize that, you're just a little piece of this big machine, and that's really important and valuable. But just kind of do your role expand, and right now, for next steps, it is that trying to develop that team in Uganda that replaces a lot of what I do on the media side with all that talent there, and I can help just continue to consult and do what I'm best at.
You and I traveled to Uganda, I believe it was April 2021, and we launched a team in Uganda called Nyaka FC. And the team is not just the Nyaka Football Club, it's a team that is formed to remember a young man who loved soccer, whose name is an obvious name, Justice. Playing soccer in remembrance of justice and in memory of justice. I know it is something that is so close to your heart, and close to my heart, and close to Justice's mom and dad and the siblings. I don't want us to finish this interview, this conversation, without talking about the importance of remembering somebody who passed away at such a young age, whose memory is now emblazoned on Nyaka community and Nyaka soccer team. The ones who are praying right now and the ones who will pray in the future, to pray for justice, to remember justice, in memory of justice. The young man who was taken, his life was taken at such a young age, but who we will remember forever. Talk a little bit about that, and I have one more question before we end.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's been about 1.5 years now that we lost Justice in the physical form. He was 12 and drowned in the ocean in Puerto Rico. And he was an amazing, incredible child that was really into soccer, amongst other things, but that interest in soccer is what sparked us to honor him through Nyaka FC. So yeah, last year we created uniforms and facilitated games in the formation of a team in his honor. And through the Nyaka program, we're now planting the seeds for the next phase of increasing the program to all 3 Nyaka schools so that all the students can train, and boys and girls develop teams, compete, fun, and receive mentorship. So it's an ongoing project forever in Justice's honor, and there's more we can share online and links to donate and support that. But I'm really looking forward to, right now the Nyaka schools are already starting to compete with the students in local games. And Jackson, you said you just saw them and witnessed it. It was really emotional and special. And that same opportunity I had, and the same opportunity Justice had in Massachusetts to compete as a youth in soccer and train and develop a passion for it, it really transforms your life. Even if you're not pursuing that sport as a profession, it made me a better person, and I look forward to what sports are going to do in the community and for Nyaka in Justice's name.
Because we want to encourage schools all over the world, international schools I've spoken to, in Asia, in South America, in Europe, here in the United States, international schools in Uganda, to partner with us so we can find uniforms, find cleats, socks, and training facilities for young people all over the country to play. It is the just thing to do, and in memory of justice and all young people who love this sport and would like to play. So we will play this again and bring it to as many schools as possible, and teen schools, team schools, which you mentioned a little bit earlier. Before we sign off, Matt, at 34 years of age, you are the one who said your age earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to your younger self? You were 18, 21. You know, every person who has come to TJK has answered that question. What advice would you give yourself?
If you start something and you can clearly envision the goal, the final product, what you're striving for. So if you have a passion for something and the goal is something you can envision in your mind, then as long as you stay with it, you will get it. And so my advice to my younger self would be to stick with some of those things, because my success now has all come from sticking with things that I knew I started with a passion. I knew what it could become. I just kind of stuck with it. Even sometimes I didn't know why, or sometimes it didn't, it wasn't as easy. So anything I found success in is from sticking with it, and anything that I look back on and no major regrets, but just kind of being like, oh, if I had just stuck with that, I would have also found success. I mean, that doesn't mean I can't restart that again tomorrow. But so I would say that the visualization of the goal, whatever you can picture in your head, you can do, and just keep with it, even if sometimes that vision gets blurry. But if you pictured it before, it will happen.
Wonderful. You've heard the man. Is there something I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
No, I had a plan to divert this off myself and start asking you questions about your recent trip to Uganda and a few things, but we did our hour. You pushed me through it, so I appreciate it.
Wonderful. We can schedule another one. You will be the asker. I will answer the questions, and we can have it on TJK. So
Nice.
we will schedule another one, my brother. Thank you so much for sparing time. You are the one who started TJK, TJKShares, TJK Foundation on YouTube. It's been a huge success, continues to grow. Without you, it wouldn't be here. Without your advice behind the scenes still, it would not be the channel it is. So thank you. See you soon. And may we continue to have this conversation to build a stronger and peaceful world for us and our children's sake. Thank
you.
Please do subscribe, share, and reshare and resubscribe. We want it to grow. It is the best, and we know the best is yet to come.